These entities are expressly putting out and advancing Islamism consistent with the plan laid out by the Muslim Brotherhood, in accordance with some 600 organizations designed to do it, to put a footprint here that is ideological and political, designed to take over our country. Europe is unique, right? And right now there are some 50 million Muslims that have now moved into Europe. This is not just happening in Europe, it is happening here. And but for an ocean, we would be Europe now. We are importing people who hate us and hate our values. I thank the speaker. You know, this past weekend in Austin, Texas, near where I live, we had a tragedy where an individual shot a bunch of Austonians, including several University of Texas students, at a bar on what we call West 6th Street, in an area that I frequented often when I was in law school, a little less often these days, but it's an area that's a fairly normal place for people to go, not generally perceived as dangerous. And this past Saturday night, early Sunday morning, even as I believe I was returning home from San Antonio Rodeo, where I'd been there, I wake up in the morning to find out that there were 3 people who had been killed, and one of whom was a shooter, and then later a third or a fourth person would die, a third victim. And it was an unnecessary, senseless act, but it's compounded by not just normal violence, but why this individual was here in the first place. And I think we've got to wrestle with some serious questions about who we allow into this country and why. The individual who killed these students, by the way, there were multiple others who were shot, having surgeries. One young woman, young student who was shot multiple times in her abdomen, another young man who was shot in his head. So it's not just the 3 dead victims, other people who are hurt, other people who are traumatized by it. And the individual who did it was wearing a Property of Allah sweatshirt, had a Quran in the back seat of the car that he had traveled in, was wearing an Iranian flag t-shirt under the Property of Allah sweatshirt. And what we know about him is that he came here from Senegal in 2000, overstayed his visa. 2006, he obtains LPR, or legal permanent residency status, under the Bush administration. I'm going to be an equal opportunity basher of administrations who have failed to secure our border properly, and did so on the back of supposedly a marriage to an American citizen. Fast forward to 2012, under Obama, he gets full citizenship, which Obama was handing out like candy, and then tries to get status, LPR status, for 2 additional women, allegedly women he was marrying. I don't know whether in succession or at the same time. All I know is he was trying to do that. Fast forward, he was arrested for a hit and run, alleged in 2022. And my fundamental question is why are we importing people who are deeply at odds with the values of our country and Western civilization? Why are we doing that? Why have we done that exponentially in the wake of the attacks of 9/11, 2001? It doesn't make any sense. This is avoidable. This man didn't need to be in the United States, who does not share our values, clearly was interested in serving his convictions for Iran and radical Islamism more than his commitment to this country, peace, and our rule of law. Extraordinary problem we have as a country if we allow Sharia law to take root. People say, well, just dismiss it. It's not a big deal. This is just a problem in Europe. You hear that all the time, right?
Absolutely.
And the fact is, it's a real problem here. And it's not just Dearborn, Michigan, where some people get some headlines. It's not just New York City right now, where you now have Mayor Mamdani and, prayer calls in the middle of Manhattan. We have, and I'll let the gentleman expand upon it, 300 plus mosques and more mosques being built every year in the state of Texas than any other state in the union. We have Epic City, which you can comment about in your own backyard. We have a massive Islamic center in Houston, a massive Islamic center north of Austin, an Islamic center in West Campus. You say, well, Chip, why is that a problem? Right? People can believe what they want to believe. They can build these things. These entities are expressly putting out and advancing Islamism consistent with the plan laid out by the Muslim Brotherhood, in accordance with some 600 organizations designed to do it, to put a footprint here that is ideological and political, designed to take over our country. Would the gentleman agree?
Absolutely. Texas has seen 48 new mosques in the last 2 years, just 2 years. That's roughly one every month. This is the fastest pace in the nation, and it reflects rapid Muslim growth in suburban areas like DFW, where I live, Houston, which is closer to where Chip lives. And frankly, it's not just in Texas. I was told by one of our North Carolina members just today that in his district, they plan to build the largest mosque in this hemisphere, I believe is the way he characterized it. So no, it is not just in Texas, but Texas is ground zero. My district, I believe, Chip, is ground zero because of this Epic City, because of the mini mosque. Epic City was going to be a 400+ acre compound, Muslim only, and if you invested a certain amount of money, then you might be able to buy a plot of land, you might be able to build a house, but when you sold the house, you had to sell it to the right person, using contract law, using our own freedoms, our own legal system against us.
Is the gentleman familiar, I know he's got to leave here in a minute, is the gentleman familiar with areas in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, even nearby your own district, in places like Richardson, in places like Arlington, a little farther away, in other areas, that some of our Texas women in particular, and generally, believe to be no-go zones, where there's areas where they are increasingly feeling uncomfortable, as if they are somehow immersed in the Middle East, in areas that do not share our values of equality, of treating people respectfully, the same as peers, and where some of our women feel uncomfortable. Is the gentleman familiar that that is the case, and in fact, in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, from what we understand?
Absolutely. I understand that from the local officials, and the women are not comfortable traveling there because, frankly, to quote an imam, women are animals created by Allah to be used by men. Women are no different from cows, sheep, horses, or mules. God made women resemble humans. Well, that's, to me, speaks, that is totally anathema to our vision of equality between men and women. Not that men are women, not that women are men. We can define what a woman is, but women have certain rights, individual rights under our concept of individual human rights. Under Sharia law, it is total submission. It is totally different. We need to understand that.
One last point, because I get thrown in my face quite frequently that our founders would be appalled that we are raising these issues and questioning people's ability to carry out and practice their faith. I know that the gentleman is a student of our history and the Constitution, a student of military history, and I'm confident that he is well apprised of the engagement that Thomas Jefferson had with respect to the Barbary pirates and the Barbary Wars. And when posed with the question that Jefferson posed, said, well, why do you make war with us? And the response was, as the gentleman knows, well, we are commanded to in the Quran. Now, to which Jefferson was fairly appalled, as you would expect him to be. And then we had to carry out wars, right, to make sure our shipping lanes were open and so forth. But I know the gentleman student of history understands that that conflict was very clear and present, even among our leaders as they were founding this nation in the Enlightenment, that led to the First Amendment, which we cherish, but the recognition of the direct conflict that the Islamic faith had, especially with respect to Sharia law being carried out against our values in Western civilization. The gentleman agree?
Absolutely. In fact, there is a term now that's being used, civilization jihad. This is the importation of Muslims who under Sharia. It reaches the accommodation phase. Yes, we'll pray in the middle of the street. No, you can't walk your dog on the public sidewalk. And then it goes to the intimidation phase that you were referring to earlier about women feeling unsafe on the street. We do not want to get to the position where Great Britain is, where they have rape gangs that kidnap young girls off of the street, take them, fill them full of drugs and alcohol, rape them mercilessly, and then the police arrest the young women for being drunk in public. We do not want to get to that point that the UK is currently.
Well, I thank my friend. I think he has to go to another engagement. I want to thank him for his leadership in working with me and co-founding the Sharia-Free America Caucus. We now have, are we 46, 45?
46
members strong and growing, and I would invite colleagues on either side of the aisle to join. We should all be united in having a Sharia-free America. It is inconsistent with our values. I appreciate his leadership. I appreciate his public service. I appreciate his friendship, and I wish him well this evening.
Thank you very much for allowing me to participate.
Thank you, my good friend.
I yield the gentleman to the
I
gentleman.
appreciate it. Thank you, sir. And look, I would just note, in addition to what we just talked about, there's this view that Europe is unique, right? And right now there are some 50 million Muslims that have now moved into Europe. You've now got France approaching 10% of its population. You have the United Kingdom at 7% plus of its population. In the United Kingdom, you have 85 courts carrying out Sharia law alongside the civilian courts. In Germany, you're at 7 to 8% of the population. Spain, Italy, a good chunk of Western Europe is now approaching 10% plus Muslim. And what question now is we're having a battle with Iran to take out their nuclear capability. At what point are we going to be concerned about a nuclear France or a nuclear United Kingdom? People say, well, Chip, that's awfully controversial. Is it? Is it really that controversial? You have majority Muslim countries that are refusing to send their kids to schools in the United Kingdom because they believe that the schools there are teaching a radicalized Islam that is more radical than they have at home. This is purposeful. This is being driven by the Muslim Brotherhood. This is not just happening in Europe, it is happening here. And but for an ocean, we would be Europe now. But after the massively open borders under the Biden-Mayorkas regime, with the increasing shrinking of the globe, and with totally irresponsible wide open borders and totally irresponsible legal, quote unquote, immigration policies by this country, we are importing people who hate us and hate our values. Why would we do that? Someone explain to me why we would do that. In the 25 years since 9/11, we have imported millions of people from countries that are diametrically opposed to our values. Why? Why would we do that? And why would we continue? I don't care what it is, H-1B, I don't care tourist visas that people tend to overstay and we never enforce. We have massive, rampant abuse of our so-called legal immigration system, and I'm sick and tired of hearing colleagues And frankly, the administration, Republicans generally, people, governors, they want to go, oh, we love legal immigration. You just got to stop the illegal immigration. Well, of course we should stop the illegal immigration. It's like the basic duty of government. But why would you continue massive, widespread legal immigration from countries that very heavily, largely oppose our way of life and want to transform it? They do not wish to melt into the pot. They wish to take over the country and change it. Stop doing that. This is common sense. But common sense was thrown out the window years ago. Everybody lives in this touchy-feely nonsense bull that they were taught in schools to say, well, you know, you just got to open your doors to everybody. Your porch, just have your porch open, everybody come in. Hold on. Why would you let people in who want to undo what you have? Like, when you have people who wish to come here and achieve the American dream, when you have people who come here and want to learn our language, conform with our laws and our society, conform with our customs, conform with our heritage, celebrate and venerate our heritage, support in God we trust, accept our values as we have Moses sitting right here overlooking the house chamber. I'm guessing that Mr. Property of Allah here, who shot up people in my town and killed students at the University of Texas and a Texas Tech student, would not be too excited about Moses overseeing our chamber.